this channel by subscribing and leaving comments.
The Patterson-Gimlin film. Everyone knows it. Everyone's familiar with it. Call it famous, call it infamous, call it what you will. We have to deal with it. Something I want to talk about today and share with you is maybe something that a lot of people aren't familiar with. Those who have been involved in Sasquatch research will know about the event that I'm going to discuss here briefly. But I want to bring to your attention that before the Patterson-Gimlin film, John Green had actually traveled a couple of months earlier to an area close by Bluff Creek. They had traveled to Onion Mountain and then a few days later, Blue Creek Mountain. They got a call letting them know that there had been some prints, alleged Sasquatch footprints found on Onion Mountain Road. So they went down there to take a look. When they got there, the prints weren't great. They were kind of disappointed, but they left their contact information to say, give us a call if anything else shows up. They had returned home back to Canada on August 28th, which was a Sunday, and they got a call on the next day, Monday, August 29th, from a Mr. Bud Ryerson, who was the lead contractor down there, or at least one of the lead workers, doing the work on the road in the area. And he said that they were now working over at Blue Creek Mountain, which was close to Onion Mountain, and more prints had been found. So Green and Dahinden hustled as much as they could and were able to charter a plane, bring a dog handler and a dog down, and off they went. They would ultimately be joined by anthropologist Don Abbott from British Columbia, as well as, funny enough, the airplane pilot who flew them down to Orleans, California. Had nothing to do. He was on a layover, so Dahinden, René, kind of forced Keith Chiazari's hand to join them and check out these supposed prints on Blue Creek Mountain. And we have film of that. Thankfully, René did take a video camera, or at the time a film camera, with them, and John Green had snapped some photos. And we have proof of that, and we have proof that it's Green, Dahinden, Keith Chiazari, the pilot, and Don Abbott, the anthropologist. There's not much in the way of photographic record of the Onion Mountain evidence. It just wasn't good, and it wasn't worth really doing much with, but I believe there's at least one or two photos of some of the prints. However, the Blue Creek Mountain track find is very well documented. However, John Green, one of his camera rolls was mistakenly opened by Don Abbott's son when he got back to British Columbia, and the film was ruined. So we don't have all the photos that were taken, but we have the film, and we have some still photos as well, and they show, fairly well. But René Dahinden actually decided to go back to that area quite a few times. I just want to make sure you understand that the Blue Creek Mountain and Onion Mountain events are different than the Bluff Creek Patterson-Gimlin film. What led Roger Patterson to Bluff Creek in October 1967 and ultimately filming what we call Patty was his finding out about the Blue Creek Mountain track find. So he went with the intent to look at those prints. Now, I don't know whether he didn't know where the prints were exactly, or he looked at them and they were virtually useless because they had aged by that time, and he ended up in Bluff Creek area. I'm not sure. Just know the Blue Creek Mountain and Onion Mountain are relatively close to Bluff Creek, a few miles away, as the crow flies. So René Dahinden would go back to that area. I don't know if he went every year, but he went quite a few years. I'm imagining he was hoping to spot a Sasquatch, witness a Sasquatch. That's one of the only reasons I can think he would go back there. We know that since at least the late 50s, it was an active area, so he was probably just hoping that he'd see a Sasquatch. So he did, again, travel back there in, I think it's 93. You'll see the date when the video starts. And he made a video with a handy cam. And he retraces his steps, and he talks about that track find, or what they were shown, because they actually didn't find it, but they documented it. He shows, like, he re-walks you through the area, and you get to see the terrain, the road, and not much has changed, to be honest with you. And I find it very interesting, and hopefully you will too. Because it's such a long video, it's over an hour. I think it was 2 hours. Yes, 2 hours. And there's a lot of stuff in there that's probably not important. I'm hopefully going to be able to dwindle it down to 4 parts. That's my goal. But we'll see what happens. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. This is René Dahinden revisiting Blue Creek Mountain, which is the event that spurred Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin to go to Bluff Creek in October 1967. Enjoy. Before I begin, I did check the date. It was October 24th, 1993 was the first day that René started videotaping down there. He stays for a few days. You'll see the date will change, and he shows that. And I want to thank both Larry Lund, longtime researcher, the Sasquatch sleuth, and Gene Robinson for making this home video that was previously private, making it available for public viewing. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for all that you've done. It is greatly appreciated, and I'm sure that the viewers will appreciate it too. So thank you, Larry. Thank you, Gene.
All about the Blue Mountain tracks. The last week of August and beginning of September, I forgot the exact date, when John Green and I flew down here from British Columbia after it was reported by a gentleman by the name of Bud Ryerson, who was pushing in a new road here, or improving a cheap trail. He was staying in his little trailer at Onion Lake with his wife, where they had water and shade, because at that time it was 100 and 110 degrees temperature in this area here, and you wanted to be camped someplace where it was cool, you know, during the daytime and even at night. Anyway, he was beyond here already, but on Monday morning he came down here and found these tracks. I'm going to show you what the area looked like and bring you step by step here. Anyway, the tracks came out from here, from this area here. And what we didn't realize then, there was an old cheap trail here, a four-wheel drive trail. They cut off this corner here with the new road. Anyway, the tracks came out from here. And don't forget, before I go any further, there was no pavement here. It was all red dust, and quite deep too. Down at the corner here, where it turns, was a box of caterpillar parts like pins, pads, and stuff for the tracks. And Bud Ryerson told us they were laying on the road or whatever, like somebody threw them around.
Just in case it's not clear, the road at the time of this video that René is sharing with us is paved. When he and Green and others were there back in late August, early September of 1967, the road was not paved. It was very dusty, compact. It was getting ready to be paved. Just, you need to know that. That's important. And again, the time shown here, René was there close, almost to the day that, not the year, but almost to the day that the Patterson-Gimlin film was supposedly shot, October 20th. It's just René was there quite a few years later, but he did travel there. He mentions later on he traveled there in other years as well. I think maybe beginning in 1970 or so. He mentioned some of the years that he traveled there. But just know that the road as you see it now is not how it was as far as it being paved. It was not paved back in 67 when they were there. Okay?
So the tracks went down the road here We picked the odd one up here. I'm gonna stop and take you around the corner, but this is what the country here looks like. It's also interesting on this corner here is that this is a dip here. To the left it goes down into the Pequan and the Klamath River, and to the right over here it goes down into Nodus Creek and Bluff Creek. So I also saw over the year that there seemed to be a game crossing here. When the road was still dusty, every time I came here, I saw tracks going across from left to right. So because it's a kind of dip here, and down below is the only water source in the area, which I'm going to show you later. But right now we are going down the road. Okay, here we're around the corner. And up here there were tracks all along here. There seemed to be a discussion, a debate here. Bud Ryerson says there were 3 sets of tracks there. At that time, I agreed with that, but later on, after I looked up my photos, I came to the conclusion that yes, there were 3 sets of tracks. At 12 1/4, I think it was, at 13 1/2, and the 15-inch track. As I said again, there was no pavement, there was deep dust here, it was very hot. And just about up here is where, if you look at Green's book, I thought I'd wait till this afternoon. Now I see that the sun is too far over. Should have done that this morning, I guess. But just about here, in this area here, we found what, if you look at John Green's book, on the track of the Sasquatch, on page 30, the best track, this is where it was, on the side of the road here. Still where the pavement is today. But there were the 2 grooves in the middle of the road, and this track was, which must have been a 13 1/2 or 12 1/4, whatever it was right here in this area.
René mentions John Green's book On the Track of the Sasquatch, which was published in 1968. That's just a year after this event at Blue Creek Mountain occurred. He references pages 30, page 46, I believe, and 57, I think. I will show those here while I'm talking so you can take a look at them. Just know that the thought was that there were 3 separate sets of prints at that site, according to the workers. However, when Green and Dahinden got there, they could only find 2 sets of prints. If you don't have a copy of Green's book, you can see the cover there. Please pick up a copy. It's a great resource. It's not that easy to find anymore, at least not first or second editions. You can get much later editions, no problem. It's a good resource to have, so please add that to your collection. Read through the parts about Blue Creek Mountain and Bluff Creek and other things too. It's a snap shot of what was happening at the time, because Green was right there and so was Dahinden. Yeah, just know that they found 2 sets of prints, and it was thought that there was a 3rd set of prints, a smaller set. So enjoy. I'll let the photos stay from the book while I fade away, and then the video will continue. Thanks.
As you can see, it's a pretty rocky bank here. Didn't change a damn thing since 67, September, end of August. So we go a little bit further down the road here. And someplace in here, if you look at Green's book, page 46, you see two tracks, the 15-inch track and the smaller one. They were found right in here. At that time, I took approximately, it's either 52 or 57 black and white photos of these tracks. Some of them were published and most of them never were published. John Green and I counted the tracks along here, and I think we came to over 500 tracks in this area. We estimated that there must have been at least 1,000 to 1,200 tracks going off in this direction here. We are walking now to a Blue Creek Mountain. This is Blue Creek Mountain, but the high points here. The tracks went along here for a while, all along zigzagging back and forth. Sometimes just the small tracks, and then the big track was here, going around along this area here. Someplace along here, these tracks, the small tracks, then went up the bank into this chunk here. Of course, you couldn't find anything here anymore. So the big tracks continued on the road, and at one point in this area here, for a while there, I thought there were two 15-inch tracks, two different sizes, because some of them big tracks were narrower on certain, you know, in widths, narrower. Same lengths, but narrower. I think the thing might have come back and circled around over here at the bank and came back again, walked up the road again. It's very peculiar. Anyway, the tracks continued along here in the dust. Some of them on the side of the road. Of course, the center one got wiped out by traffic coming by, Forest Service guys, other people who heard about it.
René mentions that there may have been a second set of 15-inch prints. We don't have photographic evidence of that, but he just wondered if maybe there were two separate sets of 15-inch prints. It's possible. So maybe there were 4 subjects, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, there at the time. Again, we have 2 for sure prints of something, and the workers thought there was a third set, and then René's wondering if there was another separate set of 15 that was very similar to the 15 that we have evidence of. Just know that there was a lot of construction traffic, so some of the evidence, a lot of it was destroyed. And then there was a lot of dust in the air, which fell on the prints and definitely impacted the detail that we would see from the photos. And some people argue that, well, you know, these are definitely hoax because Ray Wallace was in the area at the time. Fact is, Ray Wallace was not in the area at the time. He was living in Washington. He was nowhere near the site. However, there was a person named Bud Ryerson who ultimately contacted Green. If there's anyone who may have hoaxed these prints, if they are hoaxed, Bud Ryerson would be my bet. Although Ryerson's reputation was pretty solid. He was considered a very genuine, honest person from what I've read, but who knows? So if you're of the mind that they're fake, Bud Ryerson would be the person that probably did these.
I'm going to show you the general area afterwards. Someplace along here all the tracks disappeared from the road. They went to the right into this stuff here. The road kind of makes a circle down below, and by going up here, there was an old cheap trail in here, which then hit the road further down. We couldn't find any tracks in here. Let me stop here. Here, this is the little road here going up to the lookout. I'm going to show you this later on. I want to continue down the road here instead. As I just said, there were no tracks on this part of the road here. They were to my right here, in this stuff in here. So, and again, the road circles around here, going around them trees. So you can see a sparsely undergrowth, but very rough stuff. Let me continue on down the road here. I turn it off and show you what's happened further down. Let me just show you some of the trees here. This is a big pine tree right in front with a flat top. There are lots of them just like it. I don't know what happened to them, but there must be a tremendous amount of wind here. We are only about 20 miles from the coast, and this is the first highest ridge from the coast in. So you got tremendous winds in here in the winter months and heavy snowfall. If you look at that tree here, it's just like a corkscrew too. You see how it twists? It's a screw, you know, just all twisted around, right around like a corkscrew. So anyway, we continue down the road. No tracks here whatsoever. I'll show you what it looks like in here. As I said, there was an old skid trail, or not skid trail, cheap road in here, which I'm going to show you around the corner. Very hard packed, very rough. Still no tracks here, several hundred feet further down. Let me go around that corner too. Some more of this Blue Creek Mountain topography here, and tree growth, brush, very dry here. You know, the trees are all I'm gonna stop right now. There's another tree here. You can see all knocked off on top. Still no tracks here as we walk down the road. It's not really far as such in distance, but if Bud Ryerson wouldn't have seen the tracks down here, we never would have suspected that, you know, that there were tracks down here too. Look at that big pine tree up there coming up. Let me stop here before we all get dizzy. Well, anyway, we go down and get to the other part. I went down a little bit too far. There's that big tree here, should have realized. The big tracks appeared again approximately here and went down on the long side of the road. Where you see in Green's book facing page 1, these lines of tracks were in here. And the same green, page 45, Don Abbott, page 48. All this took part right in here. If we would have taken different picture, I assume we probably could pinpoint the place exactly. So the big tracks came again and went along on the right-hand side here. Between the tracks, meaning from the toe to the heel of the next track, was 36 inches. The track was 15 inches. So that brings it to 51, 52 inch step. Not stride, as everybody calls it, but a step. One step of 51, 52 inches. A stride is 2 steps. And the step is measured from the heel of one foot to the heel of the next foot, or from the toes to the toes of the next foot. That includes the space between the tracks and one full track. This is the correct way to measure this. So always be professional and make sure everybody understands what the heck you're talking about and that you did a proper job.
There's quite a bit of footage of trees and stuff that's really not necessary to include in this video. So some of it has been cut and you're not missing any information. He's just talking about the trees and how beautiful they are and how large they are and the pine cones. So realize you're not missing anything. I wanted to take a moment to talk about the dog. René does briefly talk about tracking dog, and that was White Lady, who was there, brought by Dale Moffat. And it was hoped that White Lady would track the alleged Sasquatch, but the dog really didn't track anything. But it was acting erratically and a little odd, according to Moffat. But, you know, I hate to go there, but we just need to be clear here. This footage is not from Bluff Creek, has nothing to do with the Patterson-Gimlin film. It's a separate piece of film from 2 months earlier. There is a researcher out there who's quite well known, who has done a lot of work on the film, who claims that this Blue Creek Mountain film is part of the Patterson-Gimlin film and shows the aftermath of a massacre at Bluff Creek, which is just ludicrous. It's ridiculous. He confuses the pilot Keith Chiazari for Bob Titmus. They're 2 completely different people. I just want to put that out there because it's just nonsense and it's muddying what really happened there. We know that Bob Titmus was not there on that day, and we know that Keith Chiazari was. Anyone can call Keith Chiazari. He will give you his flight log for the day. He will talk about being there. Bob Titmus never claimed to be there. He was living in northern British Columbia at the time, driving a cab. And you can see in letters from between him and John Green that he wasn't even aware of what happened there. Green had to tell him about what happened at Blue Creek Mountain. So anyways, no Bluff Creek Massacre. Please don't jump on that bandwagon and believe that nonsense. Let's continue.
Then the tracks went along here, as I said, and then they disappeared over here on this old cheap trail here, which was, I guess, approximately back here where the new road is now. Let me go down a little ways, put that piece of paper away with my notes on it. And the main road then went down there. Straightened the road out. Went down this cheap trail here. That's what was here before. Bud Ryerson came along, straightened the road out, and they decided to put the roads, if possible, on the ridges rather than down along the creeks or the side hills. Because every time it rained, especially the Bluff Creek road, it got washed out. As Patterson found after he made his move, he couldn't get down the main road anymore. He had to come up the Onion Lake Road, which I'm going to show you later on. So the tracking dog we had with us tracked this thing, I assume. He did. Anyway, we couldn't saw the odd scuff mark here and there, but nothing of any value. The dog went in here, so you can see it's not much of a... was the only access there was at the time before they built the road, the main road over there. Let me go down the road. You guys gonna get dizzy watching this. Like I said, this at the time was the only access road there was. Look at all them pine cones around here. And the road went down here. The dog took off down the road here. Everybody ran after him. The dog came back, ran after him again, circling around, sniffing around. And the dog handler thought that since it was so damn hot that it sucked the scent right out of the track, and the dog just couldn't follow him. So I forgot now how far down we went here. I'm not going down because it doesn't mean a damn thing. But the tracks disappeared in here. Now, to my right, it goes down into Notice Creek. The same footprints were found in Bluff Creek. Quite a ways up Bluff Creek. If you go down here and Side Hill Gaucho around, who knows where they went from here. But the same tracks were also down in Bluff Creek, about 3 miles from the Bluff Creek Bridge, the one which goes across Bluff Creek there, the new cement bridge. So that's the way it went. And like I said, Green and I counted the tracks. I forgot now exactly how many we counted, and guesstimated that there were probably double that many already wiped out. And they came to close to either 1,000 or 1,200 different footprints. And show you some more of the country. Once more, I might as well go over it one more time here. As I said, the only tracks which came out down here were the big 15-inch track. We never saw the smaller tracks after that. The cheap trail, or the old road, if that's what you want to call it, is right opposite the big pine tree here, going to the right. I have some photos at home, black and white one, which I really should have taken with me, which I would have been able to exactly pinpoint the exact spot where them tracks were, but they were along this bank here, which of course was a little higher because the road wasn't paved. There's about 4 or 5 inches of pavement, it seems, on here, or gravel underneath it. But the small tracks, who knows where they went. And Bart Ryerson figured the tracks were made on Sunday night, and when he came to work on Monday, there they were. So let me think we saw enough of this. Saw that tree before. So it's all bushy in here, rhododendron and other brush. And like I say, you go down that cheap trail way down. It hits the old road, the new road here again. And these tracks went when they disappeared. Who knows which direction they traveled. If they went down the side hill or into up and Otis Creek and down along the side hills through the high bush forests down there and into Bluff Creek. Over and out.
That ends part 1. Part 2 will continue where part 1 left off. Stay tuned. There's some interesting stuff that comes up. Some of it might be a little slow for some people, but just realize the historical, significance of this event, and René going back to revisit, and you'll see he'll show a little more detail about where the prints came in and came out, and it makes you wonder just if they were faked, how did they pull it off? So yeah, stick around. Again, I'm hoping that it's going to be dwindled down to 4 parts because it's so lengthy. And thanks for again, all your support and being there, and I appreciate it. And take care. Stay tuned. Part 2 is coming up.
If you're enjoying all this rare and unique content, please show your support by subscribing and leaving comments.